Namaskar, hello and welcome viewers. You're watching Committee Report with your host Kriti Mishra. Today we'll take a closer look at the report of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Commerce on Intellectual Property Rights Regime in India. Intellectual property rights are the rights given to persons over the creations of their minds and are critical in fostering innovation and creativity. Hence, the rights provide the creator or innovator an exclusive right over the use of his or her creation for a certain period of time. The strengthening of IPR regime has gained further significance in light of the government's focus on Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat. Also, the power of innovation leveraged by IPR has been amply demonstrated during the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, particularly in medical and health sectors. The Committee on Commerce gave a detailed report on the review of the intellectual property rights regime and also the action taken report. Here are the details. In view of significance of a strong IPR regime, the department-related Parliamentary Standing Committee on Commerce in this report has observed and analysed the overall scenario of IPR regime in India and its contribution in promoting innovation and entrepreneurship in the country. The report also examines the challenges in strengthening IPR regime, the related procedural and substantive constraints, legal aspects and other issues such as low awareness of IPR, counterfeiting and piracy, IP financing, IPRs in agriculture and pharmaceutical sector. India, being the world's largest democracy, aspires to safeguard public interest in the face of industrial and technological growth. It is therefore imperative for India to maintain a fine balance between private rights through IPRs on one hand and rights of the society as public interest on the other hand. And for deeper insights, I'm joined by an illustrious panel. Joining us in the studio, Mr. Sushil Kumar Gupta, member of the Rajya Sabha and member of the Committee on Commerce. Joining us through virtual platform, Dr. Unnat Pandit, Controller General of Patents, Designs and Trademarks, and Mr. Ankit Sahani, Advocate, Supreme Court of India, who also appeared before this committee. I welcome you all on Sansad television and thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Gupta, let me begin the program with you. It is said that protection of copyright or patents or IPR regime in the country results in higher FDI inflows. For instance, 1% protection would lead to 6.8% of FDI. That's what the committee notes. In that context, take us to the importance of IPR in India, setting the tone and tenor of this discussion.
देखिए, बौद्धिक संपदा का जो अधिकार है, इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी राइट का जो अधिकार है, उसका इस्तेमाल हिंदुस्तान के अंदर में डेवलप नेशन के मुकाबले के अंदर बहुत कम है। जो फर्स्ट क्रिएटर है किसी भी प्रॉपर्टी का, जो इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी है, उसका रजिस्ट्रेशन कितना हो पाता है, कितना उसका प्रोसेस को हमें आसान करना चाहिए, भारत सरकार को इस तरफ विशेष ध्यान देने की ज़रूरत है। हम यूनिवर्सिटीज़ के अंदर, बड़े बड़े कॉलेजेस के अंदर हम विज्ञान के स्टूडेंट्स को, इंजीनियरिंग के स्टूडेंट्स को, उनके कितने रिसर्च पेपर को हम रजिस्टर्ड करा पाते हैं, कितना नए एक इनोवेशन है उसको रजिस्टर करा पाते हैं, उसकी कितनी मार्केट के अंदर सेलेबल चीज़ों को बनवा पाते हैं। ये पूरी दुनिया के अंदर हिंदुस्तान के नाम को आगे ले जाने का काम करता है। आज हिंदुस्तान की जो बड़ी इंडस्ट्री है या जो स्मॉल स्केल इंडस्ट्री है, उसका चाइना से पीछे रहने का कारण ये भी है कि हम प्रॉफिट की तरफ तो ध्यान देते हैं, परंतु उसके रिसर्च विंग पे कितना दे पाते हैं, उसके लेबोरेटरी में कितना इन्वेस्ट करते हैं, उस लेबोरेटरी के अंदर कितना इनोवेशन का काम होता है, क्या नई चीज़ें उसके अंदर उस इंडस्ट्री के अंदर डेवलप हो सकती हैं, क्या पुरानी की क्वालिटी के अंदर कितना सुधार हो सकता है, उसका कितना हम पेटेंट राइट को रजिस्टर्ड करवा सकते हैं। इन बातों पे सरकार और इंडस्ट्री और इंडस्ट्रियल एसोसिएशन सबको मिल के ध्यान देना पड़ेगा अगर हिंदुस्तान की को दुनिया के अंदर आगे बढ़ाना है। तो अभी CSR का प्रोविज़न भारत सरकार ने किया, परंतु मैं इस बात का एक पक्ष रखना चाहता हूँ कि स्पष्ट तौर पे CSR में से भी कुछ रिसर्च पे जरूर लगना चाहिए, चाहे वो उसी इंडस्ट्री के अंदर लगे। कॉर्पोरेट सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी अलग सोसाइटीज़ के लिए बेशक है, परंतु क्या वो इंडस्ट्री आने वाले समय के अंदर स्टैंड कर पाएगी? क्या उसका रिसर्च वर्क उसको और आगे लेके जाएगा? दुनिया के बेहतरीन देशों को हम compete कर पाएंगे? उतनी मशीनें बनाना है, उतना मेडिसिन बनाना है। अभी हमने कोविड की वैक्सीन बनाई, सारी सरकार ने इस पे ध्यान दिया, इसकी रिसर्च के ऊपर कहीं ना कहीं एक हैवी इन्वेस्टमेंट हुई, तो दुनिया के अंदर नाम हुआ। अगर ये हम अपनी इंडस्ट्री के अंदर भी लगाते जाएंगे तो हिंदुस्तान में जो आज बेरोजगारी है उसको नहीं देखना पड़ेगा। अगर हिंदुस्तान के बच्चे जितना अपना कॉपीराइट रजिस्टर्ड करा लेंगे, हम इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी राइट के संदर्भ के अंदर कानूनों को और आसान बनाते हुए उन चीज़ों को आगे ले जाएंगे, तो मैं समझता हूँ उसका लाभ आने वाले समय के अंदर पूरे देश को मिलने वाला है और पूरे देश का नाम दुनिया के अंदर बेहतर तरीके से होगा।
Absolutely, sir. That's a very important point that you're making. And let me take that to Dr. Pandit. Dr. Pandit, as Mr. Gupta is pointing out that India grants a low number of patents as compared to China and the USA, which can be attributed to low spending on research and development, which is approximately 0.7% of the GDP. How do we improve the situation, sir?
Definitely, we need to improve upon the patent filing. That's number one. And that's primarily for if India is would like to develop it as the knowledge economy. And we can traditionally see that even the Singapore, Japan, Israel, all these countries were under the same, got the freedom under the same regime, but they have adopted a different economic model for the growth. And we can see the Korea also, the knowledge economic model is rapidly transforming the entire economic. And government has realized that if we want to achieve the goal of a 5 trillion economy, the importance of an intellectual property regime is important. And that's why we welcome all the recommendation which is given into this joint parliamentary committee report. And secondly, if we want to increase the patent filing, the journey has already been started. See, we have conducted the Smart India hackathons, wherein 2,100 institution students are participating, and over 10 lakh students have participated. So the journey of IP creation has already begun in India, and we have recently seen that domestic filing has surpassed the foreign filing in last quarter. So this is a positive sign of whatsoever may be the IP awareness initiative or various other recommendations which national IPR policy has made, that government has executed starting from 2015 onwards, and over a 6-7 years period. Now we are at a stage wherein we have a more domestic filing than the foreign filing. So when committee has reviewed, it was around 36% of a domestic filing. Now this has surpassed. So this is the change we can see. The government is trying to raise it. Secondly, government has established through AICT 3,300 institutional innovation councils in various technical institutions. So idea generation is not just important. Translating the idea into the useful innovation asset is important, and they are going to offer a backbone support. So I'm quite confident that we have a bright future ahead. We have also reduced the filing fees by 1/4.
Yes.
This is again going to catalyze. So AICTE has initially thought of supporting 10,000 patents by offering them the financial assistance. So the same amount of rupees will now be available for filing the 40,000 patents. So this is a remarkable change which I foresee, and soon we are going to have a much useful patent. And I do agree with Honorable MP Sir that CSR is important element, but I would like to add upon here, the IP creation should be in the field of a social innovation.
True.
The innovation which can address the societal challenge. And I think there we should emphasize on CSR spending. We have the grassroots challenges. If any innovative idea, any innovative product which is addressing the societal challenges and benefiting to the end person who is facing this challenge, through the technological innovation, then I think those kind of innovation we need to encourage, and this is the time wherein we are going to encourage them.
Absolutely, sir. That's a very inspiring figure that you're quoting. But, Mr. Sahani, when this committee reviewed IPR in India, it noted that only 36% of patents filed in India were filed by domestic entities, as Dr. Pandit is pointing out. But the committee attributed this to lack of awareness of IPR. How do we increase that awareness?
Thank you so much for that question. I think that journey has already begun. Like Professor Pandit pointed out, if we see the action taken report that the Government of India has submitted to the Parliamentary Standing Committee, there is a mention of how many DPIIT IPR specialist chairs have been appointed in various universities, leading universities of the country, across different regions. There is a mention of the Atal Innovation Mission program being revived and renewed for another tenure. There are so many initiatives that the government has started to do, but you see, it's like a butterfly effect. It will take some time. On an average, if we see, there is a saying in innovation circles and R&D circles that for something to come to fruition, the average time that it takes is 5 years. So we must wait for some more years for these initiatives to set in, for the fruits to actually come out, and for the public at large to benefit from this. Having said that, I think it's also important to point out that the Standing Committee report makes another important observation. It tries to highlight the role that state governments have to play. Now, considering, of course, that the Honorable MP, Dr. Gupta, he was very actively involved in the proceedings of the Standing Committee, and he had, it was a privilege for us to have deposed before him. He had supported a lot of the initiatives, a lot of the suggestions that we made. One of the things that we talked about was that the state governments also have to come up. Now, simply because it is a subject matter that comes under Ministry of Commerce, doesn't mean that the state governments, essentially wash their hands of this thing. Education awareness is something that state governments can also take up at the primary education level, at higher education level. State government can also offer further subsidies in terms of filing fees, whether it is the official filing fees for filing patents, etc., or it is offering subsidies on the professional fees that professionals, patent agents, lawyers, etc. charge. So there are different things which I believe when they all come together will effectively push India towards becoming an innovation superpower in the next 5 years.
Absolutely.
If I may add one point here.
Yes, Dr. Pandit, please go ahead.
Which is much more useful for viewer. See, India is the first country who has this many number of a dedicated IPR chair in the world.
Right.
So the IPR chair, nowhere this concept exists. But through earlier in the MHRD chair, which we renamed and which brought into the same cluster under the DPIIT, and we have this wonderful initiative, which is not just for the awareness, to also offer the hand-holding and support. And secondly, what Aniket ji has also mentioned, that we need to have a use of IP. This is something where we need to work upon. And secondly, I would like to add on to this that India need to respect the IP creator, innovator, and there how entire ecosystem will cater the need for strengthening the knowledge-based economic base.
Absolutely, sir. That's
foundation.
Again a very valid point. But Mr. Gupta, as Ankit was telling us that you were very, very active through the deliberations of the committee, and a very important point that he flagged, that we need to rope in the states. What's the roadmap for it?
देखिए रोड मैप तो है, पहले नॉलेज शेयरिंग हमें करनी पड़ेगी. स्टेट गवर्नमेंट, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट, एजुकेशन इंस्टीट्यूशंस एंड जो वैज्ञानिक संस्थान हैं, सब मिलकर इस बात की तरफ हम चलें कि हिंदुस्तान को आगे लेके जाना है. हिंदुस्तान की बौद्धिक संपदा को हमें सुरक्षित करना है. अगर हम प्राचीन काल से लेके आज तक आए तो जो हमारे यहाँ बेसिक हल्दी जैसी, टर्मरिक जैसी चीज़ें थी, कहीं पेटेंट राइट अलग देशों के अंदर होते रहे, इस दिशा के अंदर सरकारों को आगे बढ़ के कदम लेना पड़ेगा। प्रोफेसर पंडित ने अभी स्मार्ट हैथकैन की बात की, एआईसीटी के थ्रू बात की। मैं उसके अंदर उस विषय में आपका ध्यान दिलाना चाहूँ, न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी में एआईसीटी को स्क्रैप करके हमने एक नया एजुकेशन बोर्ड बनाया था जो सबके लिए एट पार वो सारे काम करेगा। परंतु उस पॉलिसी को बने हुए 2 साल हो गए। सारी जितनी संस्थाएं थी, चाहे वो सीओए हो, चाहे वो मेडिकल काउंसिल हो, चाहे वो एआईसीटी हो, अपनी अपनी जगह खड़ी हुई है। तो अगर सिस्टम को हिलाना है और देश को आगे बढ़ाना है तो सख्त डिसीजन लेने पड़ेंगे। सख्त डिसीजन के साथ में टॉप टू बॉटम नॉलेज शेयरिंग करनी पड़ेगी और तब हमें प्रोत्साहित करना पड़ेगा देश के बच्चों को, देश के युवा को, देश के वैज्ञानिक को, देश के उद्योगपतियों को, देश के युवा इनोवेटर्स को कि आप आगे आएं। सरकार आपकी हेल्प के लिए खड़ी हुई है, सरकार आपको आगे बढ़ाने में इच्छुक है। ये सिर्फ लगना नहीं चाहिए, सिर्फ दिखना नहीं चाहिए, वास्तव में होना भी चाहिए। अगर ये वास्तव में होगा तो हमारा देश का युवा आगे बढ़ने से कहीं रुक नहीं सकता और देश का जो इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी राइट है दुनिया से कहीं आगे जा सकता है। परंतु अगर ऑब्स्टिकल बने रहेंगे और नॉलेज को गेन करने के लिए अलग अलग विंडोज पे नॉक करना पड़ेगा तो फिर बहुत मुश्किल है। आज के इस कॉम्पिटिटिव युग के अंदर जब मैं एक अपनी इंडस्ट्री को यहाँ पे चलाता हूँ, उस इंडस्ट्री को वही आइटम मेरे से 50% रेट पे, 75% रेट पे इंपोर्ट करने के बाद बढ़िया पैकेजिंग के अंदर यहाँ मिल जाती है, तो इस पे सरकार को सोचना पड़ेगा। मैं जितना मर्जी प्रॉपर्टी राइट, इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी राइट को रजिस्टर्ड करा लूँ, अगर मेरी उसकी वायबिलिटी नहीं बनती प्रोडक्ट की तो उस पर करना पड़ेगा। इसके साथ साथ प्रॉफिट पे लगाम लगाना पड़ेगा। मैं मेडिसिन की बात करता हूँ, आज 200 गुना प्रॉफिट भी है, 300 गुना प्रॉफिट भी है। अगर एक 2 रुपये की गोली है वो कहीं पे 2.5 रुपये में बिक रही है, तो कहीं पे 20 रुपये में बिक रही है, कहीं 50 रुपये में बिक रही है। सरकार उस पर लगाम लगाए, भाई आपका 30% प्रॉफिट होगा, आप 50% प्रॉफिट कमाओ, कोई बात नहीं, बाकी रिसर्च के अंदर लगाओ, देश के अंदर काम आएगा, देश की चीज़ें और आगे बढ़ेंगी। अगर इस सोच के साथ हम आगे बढ़ेंगे तो देश को आगे बढ़ने से नहीं रोक सकता और हमारी बौद्धिक संपदा बहुत आने वाले लंबे समय तक सुरक्षित रहेगी।
Sir, you made a very important point about medicine. Let me take that to Dr. Pandit. Dr. Pandit, the committee recommended waiving of patent rights for COVID-19 related drugs and vaccines temporarily to address inadequate availability. It recommended avoiding any delays in invoking compulsory licenses on crucial drugs and vaccines in emergency-like situations in future. What's the latest on that front, sir?
See, this has certain legal complexity engaged also, and India has also put this forward into the United Nations with the help of the South African Authority. So this is yet to be discussed. It is placed into the committee and this is under review. But now the situation is different. It is dynamically changing. So for a particular situation and for a particular disease, I don't think this is going to help us in a short term. We need to have a permanent solution, and how the IP is created for the society. We need to ensure that we are advocating for this. And secondly, as far as Dr. Gupta sir has mentioned about the medicine prices, so government has taken up a wonderful initiative of Jan Aushadhi scheme. So this is advocating the generic medicines offered at the same price, and in a various parts of a country it is priced at the same level. So this is something which government has already taken into the cognizance, and then they have established this mechanism to offer the affordable medicine.
All right, and let's talk about another important highlight, Ankit. The committee recommended creating a separate category of rights for artificial intelligence and related innovations owing to its significant benefits and applications. What is the way ahead since you appeared before the committee on several occasions?
So, interestingly, I'd like to bring a fact to your notice. I invested in a project which was an application backed by artificial intelligence, which with the assistance of human beings creates paintings. And we wanted to utilize the output that that application created and file corporate applications just to nudge and test the legal proposition of whether an artificial intelligence, which has reached in today's day and age, has reached that level of development that it can provide a very active contribution to things. So today, as we see, technology has reached a point where artificial intelligence is painting, it is writing articles in books, it is creating inventions. So we wanted to file this corporate application, and we did before the Indian Corporate Office, before the US Corporate Office and the Canadian IP Office, just to get a reaction out of the governments and to nudge the governments to take a position on what is the policy stand on giving protection to creations that have been created either autonomously by artificial intelligence or with the assistance of the artificial intelligence. Now, when we mentioned this before the proceedings of the Parliamentary Standing Committee, we found very good reception from the members. They were very curious to understand what more is there to this. And, after hearing all stakeholders, the committee recommended that, no, for India to emerge as a leader in artificial intelligence space, we must relook at our corporate laws, at our patent laws, and we must bring about suitable amendments to ensure that creations made by artificial intelligence, whether in terms of patents, inventions, or in terms of artistic or literary or dramatic or musical work, should be considered for protection.
Right.
So this is an outline of what the committee recommended. The government also submitted a response in its action taken report saying we are looking at how other jurisdictions of the world take a view on this, because
right.
there are other governments that have launched public consultations. But what would be good to see is if Dr. Pandit's office launches a public consultation, takes into consideration views from different stakeholders, whether it's the academia or it's researchers, AI researchers, inventors, or it's the industry, to see whether this is the plausible way ahead, or are there other alternative options that exist for us to adopt.
All right. Again, that's a very important point. But Dr. Gupta, before we end this conversation, I'd like to understand, how do we curb counterfeiting and piracy?
देखिए, मैं इसकी दो बातों में बताना चाहता हूँ। हिंदुस्तान के अंदर पहला एक व्यक्ति पायरेसी करके बेच रहा है, जिसका पेटेंट राइट है, और दूसरा एक कंपटीटर सही वस्तु को बेचने वाले को भी गलत तरीके से बौद्धिक संपदा के अधिकार में फंसा के, कॉपीराइट में फंसा के उसके ऑफिस को और दुकान को सीज करा देता है, उसके फैक्ट्री को सीज करा देता है। दोनों में कोर्ट के एक्शन तक आते आते उसकी ऑफिस को और दुकान को रीसील होते होते बहुत देर हो जाती है। कई बार फॉरेन कंट्रीज़ के ऑर्डर भुगत पाने में देर हो जाती है, कई बार डोमेस्टिक ऑर्डर पे लेने वाला बायर मना कर देता है। तो इसमें कोर्ट को असिस्ट करने के लिए कोई स्पेशल ऑफिसर्स लगाने चाहिए, स्पेशल कोर्ट्स बनानी चाहिए, क्योंकि जो अर्थव्यवस्था है उसका पहिया अगर रुक जाता है तो उसको दोबारा चालू करने के अंदर एक बहुत मेहनत का काम है। इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी राइट है, कॉपीराइट है, उसका अपना अधिकार है, परंतु उसका कितना गलत इस्तेमाल हो रहा है। अगर कोई गलत इस्तेमाल कर रहा है, उसके पायरेसी कर रहा है, उसको कड़ी सज़ा का प्रावधान होना चाहिए और वो नोटिफाइड होना चाहिए कि इन लोगों ने ये किया, दोबारा इनसे कोई इस तरीके से व्यापार से बचे। और जो गलत एक कंपटीटर को रोक रहा है, उसको गलत उस अधिकार के अंदर फंसा रहा है, तो उसका व्यापार का नुकसान ना हो, ये भी कोर्ट्स को, पुलिस को और सरकार को, तीनों को इंश्योर करना पड़ेगा कि उसके साथ कर कोई इनजस्टिस हो रहा है तो जल्द से जल्द उसको भी न्याय मिले। तो दोनों केसेस के अंदर कहीं ना कहीं हमें इस कानून की जानकारी सबसे पहले पुलिस अधिकारियों को, कोर्ट के ऑफिसर्स को इसकी पूरी जानकारी रहे और उनको गति कैसे हम दे सकते हैं ताकि उसके द्वारा पायरेसी भी रुके और नाजायज तंगी भी रुके।
So promotion and protection of such creations and innovations in the form of intellectual property and intellectual rights is significant for not only safeguarding them from adverse exploitation, but also managing them as precious knowledge assets. On that note, thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Gupta, Dr. Pandit, and Mr. Sahani. Next week, we'll return with highlights of another important committee report. Till then, take care and stay tuned to Sansad TV. Namaskar.